Hey CW Apes, Mr. Kennedy here, and welcome to the Fresno Clovis Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility. So this is your lecture video on how we treat wastewater. I gotta tell you, this is something that always shows up on quizzes, tests, and even the College Board test at the end of the year. So watch it, live it, love it, learn it, make sure you get this stuff. So this picture that you're seeing here on this slide is a picture of the Fresno Clovis Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility. Every year we take field trips to this facility, and I think kids kind of miss out on just how really amazing this place is. It receives, are you looking, 68 million gallons of wastewater a day with a capacity of as much as 80 million gallons of wastewater a day. That's a lot of wastewater. And really, this is the only one that treats all the wastewater for our surrounding community. There are other places that you might see around town that look similar to what I'm going to show you here, but they're not wastewater treatment centers. They're actually surface water treatment centers, and they really only do any meaningful work after it rains and treat the water that comes through gutters and things like that. This treats everything that goes down a drain or a toilet. So let's talk about what's going on here at this treatment center. First, we'll look at what's called primary treatment. Primary treatment is all about taking out the solids. So there's literally grates that remove debris and screens that take out even smaller pieces of debris, and finally a grit tank that takes out any sand or gravel and allows that to settle to the bottom. Okay? This is what the sedimentation tank looks like that the initial treatment process finishes in. So all this wastewater comes through pipes that could take as long as 8 hours to reach this facility and goes through that initial screening process, as it's called, and then makes it to these sedimentation tanks. Here, the sludge and the sand and the gravel all settle to the bottom, and as you go visit, these kind of look like big circular ponds, and they'll have this little misting apparatus that goes around the top. The idea is to get the sludge to settle to the bottom and to get any and all of the remaining solids out. So this is primary settling, and yes, it does say no fishing. Okay. Primary sewage treatment in just kind of raw picture form, if you will, looks like this. The raw sewage comes through, goes through a screening process, and then to that sedimentation tank where gravity takes over, and we get as much of that filtered water or that filtered material to settle to the bottom. The water that's coming off the top is relatively clear, but still very dirty, full of all kinds of organic and inorganic contaminants that have to be removed. And that's what the secondary sewage treatment is all about. Secondary sewage treatment, we need something to eat the waste. We need something to eat all this organic material, and that's where bacteria, protists, amoeba, fungus, these guys all come into play. The purpose of these is to literally clean the water by eating all of this waste material that's floating in it, and then as they complete their life cycle, they will settle to the bottom, leaving only clean water behind. Ideally, these guys will get pretty much all of the organic matter out of the water that's in it. Okay, so bacteria and protozoa consume 80 to 90% of biodegradable, soluble organic contaminants, which is everything from sugars, fats, to all other manner of organic molecules. These bacteria live in these large containers called aeration tanks. So this wastewater comes off of those screening ponds that you saw a moment ago and goes into these aeration tanks. There are giant aeration stones, kind of like what you would find in a fish tank, sitting at the bottom of these aeration tanks that pump air into the water. There's so much air pumped into this water to keep this bacteria alive and working aerobically that, to be honest with you, the water loses its surface tension and its density. If you tried to put a boat on top of this aeration pond, it would simply sink right to the bottom. You wouldn't have a chance at surviving. Okay. But the bacteria do a really useful service for us. After a set time period in the aeration tank, we go to a secondary clarifier, and that's again where gravity kind of takes over, and we let the bacteria now settle out and be circulated back to the aeration tank as activated sludge. Water is usually chlorinated at the very end to kill any bacteria that might remain in the water. Our Fresno County wastewater treatment facility is actually using ultraviolet light more than chlorine in today's day and age. The water that leaves our wastewater treatment facility is very, very clean. It is cleaner than any of the state standards for water cleanliness that have been shared with me that I've seen. But the water is still considered non-potable or not drinkable. So they can't just take this water from the wastewater treatment facility and then run it back through the pipes to town and have you like turn on the faucet and drink the stuff. Instead, they take it and they release it into evaporation ponds where it can percolate down through rock strata into the groundwater and be further cleaned before it is pumped back out. This non-potable water does have uses that can be like utilized faster than waiting for that infiltration process. We do have what we call purple pipe leading from the wastewater treatment facility back to town. And this carries non-potable or not drinkable water from the wastewater treatment facilities and uses it to water things like golf courses and parks. Again, you wouldn't want to drink it, but spraying it all over these grassy areas just is a faster way of encouraging evapotranspiration and completing the water cycle. Fresno wastewater goes through some secondary treatment in ponding basins out by the airport. If you ever get there, they actually have a spot called Leaky Acres, which is covered with these evaporation ponds where this wastewater gets piped or plumbed to, and it gets to filter down into the groundwater. These are evaporation ponds just outside of the wastewater treatment facility, and it's doing the same thing there. Okay, so next is tertiary treatment. Tertiary treatment is performed in very small number of instances where the effluent quality is critical for some sort of direct human use. So the wastewater treatment plant that I'm sharing with you always does primary and secondary treatment, but rarely will we have a tertiary treatment as well. Tertiary treatment has been provided for water that has to go places like Lake Tahoe and Nevada to inhibit excessive eutrophication. We don't want to take any like organic matter and plumb that into a body of water like Lake Tahoe, because the algae can feed off of whatever is left in the water, and the lake will change color. As far as effectiveness of sewage treatment, check this out. Primary treatment, you can see, well, it takes out solids and things like that, but it doesn't do much for phosphorus, nitrogen, viruses, dissolved organics, pathogenic bacteria, or sewage solids. Sewage solids are skimmed out, but all that other stuff pretty much makes it through. Secondary treatment does a much better job about getting pathogenic bacteria out, some dissolved organics and viruses, but we still have phosphorus and nitrogen to deal with. And it's that phosphorus and nitrogen that we don't want in bodies of water like Lake Tahoe, because that's like fertilizer for your lawn, okay? And tertiary treatment can get rid of that. Now, after this is all, processed and done, we do have sludge that is left over from the sewage treatment process. So here, I'm holding some sludge from the wastewater treatment facility. This is sewage sludge, which refers to the solids that are separated during the treatment of the municipal wastewater. And then there's biosolids, which refers to treated sewage sludge that meets EPA pollution and pathogenic requirements for land applications. So what I'm holding are biosolids, and those biosolids can actually be like spread as fertilizer on the ground. Sewage sludge, no, but biosolids, yes. Okay. So that's how wastewater treatment is accomplished. Remember, this is a really, really important process, and from stem to stern, something that we can't live without. All right, ladies and gents, I'm Mr. Kennedy, and I will see you next time.